working on the spider. So this boot is clamped to the plenum. This clamp is loose. These go in real easy. This side is on and it's clamped to the spider. So now I have to get this on. We're gonna try this. That worked. We're in. I'm gonna button them up. These clamps I got at O'Reilly's today. Riffraff is out of stock. O'Reilly's had these. Work great. Bit of a challenge here. Oversight on my part. Bunch of oil in the valley. What the heck? So the mistake, it's not a big deal, is I put oil in the reservoir, not realizing that these new fittings do not have check valves. So I had plugs on them, but they still leaked oil down into the valley. So I got to clean all that. Luckily, it didn't go all the way out the back. So, lesson learned, don't fill the reservoir. You could probably fill this last, right before you started, I guess. Okay, here's the exhaust back pressure cover plate. I actually used a compass to outline a pencil mark here, and then I used gray RTB. There's a groove on the front cover that's going to accept all this silicone. It was kind of nice because when I was done there was no silicone oozing out. I have no leaks there. And then I also painted the front of this thing, scrubbed it real good and painted it. Need to have this thing off obviously to get the bolt into the HPOP, and you need it kind of out of the way. Helps when you're putting the bolts into the fuel bowl. Here's the driver's side fuel line, and I'm just showing this because I put a little bit of dielectric grease on the back of this Vitron sleeve so this nut would spin a little freer. This kind of, it didn't bind, it just was kind of a little snug when it was freewheeling there. Here is the valley. Everything installed except the spider and the wiring harness. Felt good to get to this point. A lot of busted knuckles to get me here. Like I mentioned before, if I were to do this job again, I would have removed this hose, this heater hose. Just dump some radiator fluid into a bucket and put a lid on it. I actually have been, had to do that a couple times when I removed the radiator. I just reused the fluid, and I strained it. I strained the fluid through a paint strainer, the nylon paint strainers. And I even used a rag to do a little bit more strainage. Put the rag inside the paint strainer and just reused all the fluid. If I would have dumped some fluid, pulled this hose, I was fighting this hose constantly. Should have removed it. Here's the spider install. As you can see in the video from before, I had this clamped onto the spider, this boot clamped here onto the spider, and then this boot was clamped to the plenum. And so I held this clamp up here with duct tape, and then I pushed the spider in on the right side first, and then on the left side it didn't, it wasn't there yet, so I had to use that mini pry tool to get it on the rest of the way. It was pretty easy. I did use a little bit of dielectric grease on the inside of these. I figured, and it helped. It helped a whole bunch. And honestly, with these clamps on there and with this turbo on back here, this thing's going nowhere. Once you clamp all this stuff down, this spider's rock solid. And I did do this clamp, the turbo clamp, first before I tightened all these down. Not too bad. Looks pretty good. I was happy to get to this point. Everything's clean. A couple more notes on the spider. So see here, that casting ridge. See here, this casting ridge. They're actually a little more prominent than you can see here. When I got the truck all together, I had a little bit of an oil leak. There was a little bit of oil down here. And it took me about a half hour to figure out where that oil was coming from. Finally, I just put my hand right underneath here and there was oil here. And I was using my stock boots, CAC boots. I don't know why I just didn't order the Riffraff ones, but do that. Make sure you just buy the Riffraff boots, stock boots. If your truck is 20 years old and you got the stock boots on there, they're toast and they're junk. The new Riffraff boots come with the groove inside the boot to grab onto the CAC tube. So they're not 100 times better, they're 1,000 times better. And then the other thing I did was I took a file and I got rid of these casting ridges. This is aluminum, so it's real easy to do. Don't go crazy. But I did that on both sides. I guess I should have done it on the bottom. I don't remember feeling down there or looking down there, but I'm going to monitor this. So every time I check my oil, I'm going to put my hand underneath here. You know, when you put these boots on, everything needs to be clean. No oil, no nothing. I used actually a little bit of alcohol on a rag to clean this real good, and the inside of the CAC boots themselves. Here is the difference between the stock boots on the left and the Riffraff boot. It's just 1,000 times. Look how much thicker it is. It's a little longer, more area for the clamp. You can see the ridge here that goes into the groove on the CAC tube. So yeah, just amazing. I put this on, I ran the truck 40 miles, no leaks at all. So yeah, just an amazing boot. You can get this in different colors. I decided to go black just because I didn't want it to stand out too much on top. But I don't know, that doesn't make sense, right? Because I went with blue on the spider. But yeah, pretty awesome.